Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. I hope you've all had a really great start to your week thus far. We just got back this morning, actually, from a 3-night getaway in McCall, Idaho. We got away with my parents and my sister Monica and her husband Nick, and it was just a really lovely time. We had planned on camping, like tent camping, because Aaron and I both grew up doing that, and we have very fond memories of it, even though I wasn't like super excited about the thought of tent camping because it is a lot of work. And we ended up switching and we stayed at a place called Shore Lodge, which we've stayed at before, and it's a really nice hotel. We decided to go that route because the weather turned and it looked like it was going to be rainy, windy, cold. Actually, one of the mornings we were there, it was 37. So it would have been pretty, semi-uncomfortable. It would have been very uncomfortable, I think, to tent camp when it got that cold. So we really enjoyed our time. Aaron has the hiccups currently, and he's had them for like the last 2 hours. So that's the other thing I wanted to mention. We'll probably try to mute your audio, but it might sneak in here and there. I don't know. So funny. But anyway, it was sunny. It was a little windy. It was very windy here. So huge shout out, especially to Bethany. She just took on the watering responsibility here. And she was here during the days. And then she would come back at like 8 or 8:30 at night and re-water stuff. Because, we still have a lot of annuals that I need to plant. And they're in 4-inch little containers. We had one day that was 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts all day long. Like for 24 hours. That dries stuff out so bad. And then the two following days, like the next day was 30-mile-an-hour winds, and then it was like 20 to 25-mile-an-hour. And today is nice. There's just like a very nice breeze. So we missed all of that, but Bethany was just running around here like crazy, and she did a great job. Everything looks wonderful, but it makes me comfortable to be able to leave when we've got such wonderful help here. Anyway, that's just an invaluable thing. I want to make sure to shout her out for that because it was very relaxing time for us. One other thing I wanted to mention before we jump into the videos from this past week, there are a couple of new sizes of Aquapot insert, which I happen to have here. So we have been using like a standard size. This one right here, this is the one we're trying out that we've been putting in all of our containers. I don't think we have any of these in stock right this size. No. But we do have a limited supply because
I don't think anybody has stock of
the standard size.
Size one.
It happens to us all.
Okay.
But we do have the mini size. This one holds 1.5 gallons of water, and for smaller containers, obviously. And we have the large size, which holds 6.8 gallons of water. In fact, I probably would have used this in those large concrete containers if we would have had it at the time. So yeah, we have limited supply of the minis and the large size. If you order 2 of the large size, they come in a pack and they ship for free. The minis, if you order 4 of the minis, they ship for free. So anyway, gardenanswer.com.
What's the yellow thing? I haven't looked at these.
It's a water level indicator. So what you do is, these things telescope. This is not set up, obviously. These telescope, this sits down lower in your pot. So you cut this off at the level you need it.
Oh, once it's full?
However long you have to put this thing right here. Because sometimes you don't need to have it that long. You need it this long. Sometimes you need it the full length.
Yeah.
So you figure out the length, and then this is just like almost like a really thick pool noodle kind of situation. So you cut it to the size you need it to be once you get it all figured out, your height, your level, and then it'll float up when it's full.
Once you cut it level, when it's full
of water,
then it'll get back to that, and so you'll see it right at the edge.
Right.
Okay.
So, anywho. That's that. Oh, and one other thing. Ken did let me know. Ken is our store warehouse manager. He let me know that the Proven Winners water soluble fertilizer, which we do sell on our website, is a slightly different color than it used to be.
Oh.
The formulation is exactly the same, but apparently there was some kind of color agent in there that they eliminated.
Oh. What is it now?
It's just like a paler color.
Oh.
So he said he's just noticed some comments, and he just wanted to make sure you knew that it's still exactly the same thing, but it's not as vibrant, right? It's usually like a bright teal.
Can you open it up?
It's like
that's clear. That's a clear bag?
Yeah, it's a clear bag.
Oh.
So it's like quite a lot lighter. But
does it still kind of turn red though when you...
I guess
because it has the iron in it.
It still has the iron in it. It's exactly the same formulation except for...
Minus
I can't
the
say
color.
exactly the same, but it's minus that color part. So anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that those of you who have bought it and have noticed a change, still the same thing, still what we're using as well. All right, the first video from this past week was our May garden tour. We had a day that was like kind of overcast for most of it, I think. It had rained in the morning. It was really nice, and we thought, let's get out and show you guys how things are looking. Plants by the Moon said, I have a huge pot of wire vine. Can I divide it? I'd like to use it in several other pots. This is its second season. I overwintered it in my greenhouse. Yeah, you'll have to just cut little sections of it off. That should be completely fine. Middle says, do you recommend using gravel glue? Did you use gravel glue for your gravel walkways? We did not. We talked about it.
Yeah.
I have no experience with it. So I don't know, like, does it start to break apart, like, depending on how thick you apply it? Does it break apart and kind of get chunky with, like, a lot of activity on it? Do weeds still want to, like, pop through it? I don't know.
Yeah, I would. I mean, you can't run any kind of machinery over it, I'm sure.
Because it would just crack it, unless it's like, well, even if you put the right base down, things settle,
Yeah.
and there's like, it moves.
But if you have a nice, thin layer of pea gravel that you want to kind of set, I would imagine it probably work pretty well.
Yeah. Vasiliki Crafferty says, what's the name of the grass? I'm desperate for thick grass. Is it Bermudas? No, it is not Bermuda grass. Is it in sod form? So Aaron directs cedar grass, which have you seen?
Yeah.
Oh, the new section along our lane is green. You can see like a haze of green. It looks so pretty. We use a lawn mix blend that we get from my parents' garden center. It's a Kentucky Bluegrass Perennial Rye blend, and it does really well for us here in our area. We also use in other areas the RTF fescue. And what's your take on those two?
Well, the jury might still be out a little bit. I was really impressed with how quick it came up and how thick it got. Mm-hmm. But there's also a lot of weedy grass too that I've noticed in there, and I haven't been super diligent on like getting after it really quickly. So, I don't know.
It didn't come in with the seed. It was just
no. It didn't come with the seed.
Yeah.
I just need to get it to the point where all the weeds are gone and everything out there before I truly can say if I like it or not. So I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. Debbie said, wow, you have come a long way. The garden definitely has. I feel like, when you step back and look at it, you're like, dang, this used to look like Mars out here, just powder dirt and just weeds. And I feel like we have made some pretty good progress. What climbing pink rose is on the chicken coop? That is a Zephrine Druin, which is a beautiful climber. I wish that it bloomed more thickly through the rest of the year. So it comes out, in May and mid-May-ish and just beautiful, thick with blooms. And then it kind of lulls. And then it just kind of spits blooms the rest of the season. There's never really a time where it's thickly in bloom again, but they are thornless, so that's nice. Love Set Free said, how do you juice your grapes at home? I use a steamer. It looks like a giant kind of spaghetti pot sort of situation, this giant silver thing that has it's 3 layers. So there's the top layer that's kind of the basket where you put your grapes. There's a second layer where you've got, I think you've got your water in that layer, and it kind of, there's a piece in the bottom that goes up. I'm trying to remember how this works. So put your water in there, the water boils and steams the grapes. The grape juice goes down into the bottom layer, which is where the spout is attached, and then you can put your jars right underneath the steamer and just release the juice right into your jar. And you can do it through a sieve if you want to. I think maybe I did that. Like I set a sieve over my jar. Did I do that? I can't remember if I did. Our grape juice was so beautiful. It was so clean. There wasn't any chunks or anything like that. It was just beautiful. Ours is pink grape juice. We juice the White Niagara variety of grape. I think I got the steamer on Amazon. Lisa Trainer said, did anyone catch which variety of geraniums has powdery mildew? I thought it was Boom Chocolata, but then later they were raved about. Boom Chocolata is the one with powdery mildew. I didn't rave about that variety. I have good luck with every other variety of hardy geranium apart from that one. And I love the color of the leaves, the dark, kind of more burgundy, chocolatey leaves. But it comes out of the ground with powdery mildew on it. It's like never without powdery mildew. So I'm getting rid of that one. Idaho Garden said, gorgeous. When did you start applying BT to your petunias? Last week, I think, was our first application. So that was the last week of May. And then we'll continue on a weekly basis throughout the season. Garmier said, we love the garden, of course, but the camera quality is so incredibly crisp. We feel like we're right there with you on the tour, and props to your editor. Would you mind sharing what camera you used to shoot this tour?
iPhone 16 Pro.
Yeah. The problem with the iPhones, I mean, they do a beautiful job. And we use those for tours or when I'm in a dark area, usually, like if I'm doing something down at the garden center, it does better in a dark location. But they overheat so fast. So a lot of times during the summer when we are filming a tour, Aaron's got like a shade, like an umbrella over the top of it, and then also ice packs,
Yeah.
rubber banded to the phone, and it lasts a little bit longer. But I couldn't film with that on a daily basis because I would be overheating it like crazy because I'm out there for hours,
Yeah.
not just for a single hour.
It's really hard with our climate to find the right camera. For tours, it works. But when Laura's filming by herself, she uses just GoPros, whatever the latest GoPro is. And those have so many issues, but they also are they're rugged. And
Yeah.
you treat camera equipment really hard.
I mean, I don't try to treat it hard. It's just the nature of the beast when I'm outside and there's
Yeah.
wind or equipment around, and it just,
Yeah.
you know.
It's really hard to find camera equipment that looks good but also doesn't overheat. It seems like those two things are just, you kind of can't find those two. So if we had, you film most of the stuff yourself. If we actually had a camera person that could keep a shade over the camera kind of at all times,
Yeah.
we could probably have better quality, but I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah. I wouldn't want a cameraman around me.
No,
I
you
like
don't.
doing it by myself.
Yeah, you're kind of like a one-man band.
Yeah. Leslie said, don't you need rain spouting on your barn roof? If you get a heavy rain, it will ruin your new flower bed. True. And you will have seen, maybe, let's see, what's the last video from this past week? We got a little ahead. So I worked.
Won't be. It's to oh yeah, by the time this comes out you'll have
seen it.
Yeah, yeah.
We did finish that area. I know I worked really hard to get ahead so we didn't have to skip posting videos for you guys while we were gone. So anyway, I'm kind of like a little confused as to where I'm at because I feel like I did the May Garden tour like 3 weeks ago, even though it wasn't that long ago. Anyway, so that new flower bed just kind of spurred on a bunch of different projects, and one of which is a new barn roof. Which, Aaron, you're happy about. And I don't know if we will do it for sure, but we will fashion some sort of rain gutter situation because there's even more stuff now in that flower bed that...
I noticed a couple comments already on that video because it's up for members, and they were saying that the metal roof would be miles more expensive than a shingle roof.
Not shake, shingle.
Yeah, and I kind of got that backwards in my mind, and it makes sense now that I think about it because it would be more expensive. Like metal probably would be more expensive. However, the metal, maybe for how long it lasts, the metal might be cheaper in the long run. Does that make sense?
Do you think doing something that's on trend, like I hate doing stuff that's like...
Oh, I don't think a black metal roof
trend.
is
You
like
said
trendy.
it looked more trendy.
It maybe is. I don't think that's going to go out necessarily.
I don't want it to look like farmhouse style. That's what I'm worried about. And I think if we did a shingle roof, it would look less farmhouse, like farmhouse style. I like the look of the black metal. I mean, I'd be completely fine with whatever. I just care about the plants being okay down below it. So we will figure something out along those lines. Kay Gardner said, I'm curious, do you notice if the gravel pathways radiate more heat in the summertime, especially where there's a lot of it around the Hartley and Parterre? I want to put down gravel paths, but it just gets so hot here. It's definitely a difference between like grass pathways versus gravel pathways, but I don't know that there's that much difference between like a mulched pathway and a gravel pathway.
Right.
I mean, we've got both.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be hotter, but you just got to pick. It's a trade-off of maintenance and like if you put landscape fabric underneath your gravel walkway, you're probably not going to have weeds as long as you get a good landscape fabric.
Yeah, and I think it depends on long-term plans. Like our plans, around the Hartley are for those great big maple trees that we planted. We planted 6 around them. We're planning for those to get big and shade the whole area and the greenhouse as well. You cannot have a glass greenhouse in Eastern Oregon without shade. It doesn't
Well, in the
work.
winter you can.
In the winter, then you have to heat it. I mean, you have to heat it. You can't have a glass greenhouse and use it without heat here, at least. And you can't use it in the summertime here without shade. So our plan is to have that whole area, or a lot of it, shaded in the end. So it does feel hotter right there, but I don't notice it as being like overwhelmingly more hot than other areas.
No.
Okay, next video was visiting an iris field with my mom and Monica, plus ordering 33 new varieties for our garden. That was so much fun. So Monica's husband, Nick, on his drive to work every day. He drives by this iris field, and last year he noticed it. And he and Monica went out there, and they opened it up for like 2 weeks, where you can walk through and look at varieties, and you can order what you'd like to have. They give you an order form and a catalog. They also have their stuff online. And they just enjoyed it so much. And we met at Monica's house before we went out to Sutton's Iris Gardens and looked at her iris that are currently in bloom that she bought the previous year. So that was fun. And then we went out there and got to tour around. It was nice because I did email them because I had no idea what the setup was like. Or, I mean, it's not like a store that, we go to the antique store all the time and they are totally welcoming with us having cameras and they're used to that, I think. But I had never been to this place. So I just emailed them and said, hey, my name is Laura. I make gardening videos and my mom and sister and I are planning on making a visit this Friday. If it's not cool for me to film, that's totally fine. We're still going to come. But if it's okay for me to film, I would love to. And I'm discreet. I try not to make, a nuisance of myself. And they were very much so like, yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have you, come and do that. So I was glad we did that because we ended up posting the video and we shut down their sales, you guys did, for 2025. So the video went up and they were inundated with orders from so many of you who are excited, which makes me excited because I love iris. Erin doesn't like iris, but I love them. They're a nostalgic flower for me, and I know there's a lot of people who do love them, and they had some really beautiful ones. So anyway, yeah, you never know. You never know what will strike a chord.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you guys for ordering because they're a locally owned, family operated farm, which is so cool. And I always like that because I come from that background. Anyway.
If somebody's going to sell out, you want it to be like a local family and not like Walmart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So we did that thing in the morning and then we went and had the most wonderful lunch and mocktails, and it was just a really beautiful morning. Then I got home, we walked through my meager collection of iris that I have, which most of them were here when we moved in. So there's that. I've planted lots of different iris, but I feel like I've planted a lot of is it Siberian iris? That kind of thing. And we've got a lot of iris in our pond. So I'm excited to add to the collection, but we looked at those and then I walked through my order. I ordered 33 varieties to add to our garden this fall. So excited. Addie said, when do you separate and transplant iris? Usually in August-ish is when they do it. So August, September kind of time.
Seems like it'd still be hot in August, September.
Just the rhythm of how the crop operates. It's a different one, which is kind of nice, like to have something during that time. So it doesn't happen all at once. Like when dahlias need to be dug, you don't have to be worrying about iris, at the same time.
Yeah.
Nancy said, I really need help. So if anyone or Monica can help, I would appreciate it. I live in Illinois and we had a dust storm, which is unheard of in my area. What can I do to save my plants? I'm literally watching the blooms fall off and die.
From a dust storm? We get dust storms all the time.
I know. It's like every week. You can hose off your plants. It's not an ongoing thing, I'm guessing. We had a dust storm. They're not used to that.
I suppose we lose blooms too, but most things just rebloom.
Recover. You can go out and wash stuff off and just treat it nice for a little bit. Make sure everything has plenty of moisture. I think that's the biggest thing. And they should recover.
And we've had storms too where, like hailstorms that damage hostas. Mm-hmm. You just got to cut stuff back and wait.
Yep. Ivy Bent Garden said, can you tell me the name of the purple iris with variegated leaves at minute 2940? So that is a variety that I did plant actually back by the oak tree line when the oaks were still in our garden before we had them removed. I planted them there and then had to dig them up and move them somewhere else. And they have a white and green variegated leaf with a purple flower that smells like a grape to me. And they're just an iris pallida, Pallida variegated. Let me see if I can find an actual name. Variegated sweet iris. Iris pallida variegata is the name of them. And I like that variety because they only grow about 2 feet tall. So they're a little bit, I don't ever have to worry about, I don't stake any of my other iris either, but they just are a nice compact form. And the leaves, even after you deadhead them, they're so beautiful and striking with that variegation. J.R. Pacer said, you guys know Laura doesn't read these comments, right?
Au contraire.
Nikki Wolf said, just wanting to know if you saw any red iris. Oh, there were so many colors. There was probably some reds in there. My eye is not drawn to red as it is other colors, so I probably didn't hone in on those. But you can check out their website, which is suttoniris.com. And everything's sold out. My goodness. I don't see any like pure red, but there's a lot of them that have red in them. Oh, no, no, no. There's one called Lest We Forget. Oh, wow. That one's red. And it's a reliable multiple rebloom tall bearded iris. So lest we forget, you can add that to the wish list if you like a red color for your garden. Demetria Campbell said, "Did Monica find the yellow and white iris? What did your mom buy?" You know what? I think Monica did find a yellow and white iris. My mom also placed an order, and we have not compared orders yet. So we'll need to do that. Sister Shirley said, "Did Sutton's website crash yet? Beware of the Laura effect." There was a little time in the morning where you couldn't access it, so I think there was a lot of traffic right after the video went up. And then they got it rectified, and it was,
Have you had any contact with them
yeah,
since?
they
Oh,
emailed.
did they message?
Yeah, they did. And they put out a really sweet post on Facebook and Instagram about like, hey, our orders are shut down for the
Yeah.
year. And then as to the reason as to why. Ann Phillips said, "Do you ever fertilize your iris? I have some that won't bloom. Thanks for sharing your adventure. That was really fun." You know, you should probably read up on their website. They have iris care, when to plant, location, soil preparation, planting depth, culture, specific fertilizer recommendations depend on your soil type. A fertilizer application is recommended about 6 weeks before spring bloom and after fall planting. Reblooming iris should have an additional application of fertilizer immediately after the completion of spring bloom. Avoid high nitrogen fertilizers. So I would probably use like a plant tone or a bulb tone or a flower tone, something like that on them. Yeah, they've got a lot of information on their website. Mammy Can said, "Such an inspiring trip. Does iris foliage brown like daffodils or alliums, or does it stay green until you cut it back in fall? Does it depend on variety?" You know, I've had mixed results. So a lot of our iris that we have in our garden that I don't even know the variety name of, you deadhead them about now. In fact, we're going to make a push through. Bethany's already started deadheading. I've deadheaded some. So that's kind of our next task, is to go through and deadhead all the iris. Then we're going to go ahead and go through and deadhead all of the alliums. So we kind of do those things in shifts, and then we have to get after rose deadheading, which needs to be done right now, but they can wait. Some varieties get brown on the tips throughout the summer, like when it's really hot and dry, they'll brown out like that. And some varieties don't. They stay beautiful green. We have one big clump out in the south garden that's kind of this really soft purple, soft apricot mix. Beautiful flowers that were here when we moved in, and I moved those out. I dug them out and moved them out into the south garden, and they stay just absolutely gorgeous. So those are the types that I will probably want to have more of out in the garden. Like as I learn about new varieties, I'm going to really like specifically look at those that stay nice through the whole year, and those are the types that I'll want to add so that they still look pretty and not brown through the rest of the season. They never brown out all the way though, like a daffodil or a tulip. Anne said, "I planted my first iris last year. The bloom stalk is now over 7 feet tall with the bud at the top. Each only has one stalk with bud, no bloom. So tall. In South Jersey with very wet and unusually cool spring, is this normal?" I've never heard of that before. So to me, that's not normal. But tall bearded iris usually top out at like 3 feet. There are some other types of iris, not a bearded iris, that can get a little bit taller, and maybe there's more varieties that I don't. There's probably lots of varieties that I don't know about, but 7 feet tall bloomstalk on an iris, I've not heard of that before. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you on that. I mean, just wait and see what happens. You might have some new like random cultivar on your hands.
Patent it.
Yeah. Okay, next video is watering the downtown pots and then working in my parents' garden. That was a fun and full day. Did I get sore after that day? No, I got a big scratch on my face after that day. I got sore doing the pumpkin vines. Anyway, we did a lot of work. I met my mom downtown. It was actually on Memorial Day, and so the city usually waters the pots during the week. So they do Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and then my parents, somebody from the garden center, goes down on Saturdays and waters them, and they skip Sundays. So Memorial Day, of course, was a Monday, and city workers are off that day. So my mom and I met down there to do it, and we had a good time. We stopped and got a coffee and just, visited, and then we went out to their house and did some work out there. And I took a bunch of our annuals, saffron finch, some white salvia, and what else? Some superbena something. Sorry, I forgot to turn my phone off. That's what the beep is. C Mash said, "Oh my, so much hard work, but the end result is gorgeous. How is your mom planning on eradicating the bishop's weeds? Bishop's weed. They're gonna have to spray it. There's no amount of digging. I mean, there is an amount of digging that can get rid of something, but yeah. So what they do is they cut it back. They're gonna let it flush just enough to where there's just a small foliage canopy, and then my mom's gonna stand out there with cardboard and spray it out. And that's just the most efficient way, I guess, of getting rid of it. I mean, you'd be digging until the end of time to try to get that stuff out. It just runs everywhere.
They should excavate their entire property.
That's what you'd about need to do. That's how we'd have to get rid of bindweed.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of the situation. Like, yeah, it would be great if we could just dig out weeds or, pour boiling water on them and have them die. That just isn't reality. Yeah. So with some of those really invasive things, just spray it out, one and done, and you can move on. Daleen Davis said, "Have you stopped doing the college?" We did. Mm-hmm. They were having some major water issues. I think, was that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they've got them worked out yet.
I think if we were going to do a project again, we would probably maybe do something a little smaller and maybe something that we maintain.
Yeah.
So that we can make sure, I would love, honestly, if anybody from the city is watching, I would love to have some little section, not even huge, but just some kind of like focal area. We would volunteer to plant it, maintain it, and make it look awesome. I just need a reliable like water zone that
what spot
I know
would
when
be
can go off.
Right below the hospital, there's that like little wedge shape where they have like a blue evergreen in the center.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just grass, but it's small.
Yeah.
It would be really pretty to plant that up.
But the grass is nice. And I feel like if we took out any amount of grass, people would be like, it's worse.
Well, if you plant flowers there, well, in the winter it might look worse, I suppose. No, because the grass just looks brown.
Yeah, maybe.
That would be an excellent spot
but you know
for
what?
a
that
water
probably
feature.
Doesn't have its own water zone. It probably is connected to something else.
Oh.
But if there is a spot that has its own water zone that I can control how much water it gets, and we can water it every day, because annuals pretty much need
in the heat.
Yeah. They need it every day. Mm-hmm. They don't need like a ton. They just need some.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that was the problem with the college, is that you're kind of relying on other people, and the college,
Rosa did a great job, but stretched really thin.
She's hamstrung by the watering system there. Mm-hmm. The college's water system is, what's the word?
Just not great.
Janky. Like they were telling me, they have some filters that they have to clean out daily.
Whoa.
And they need everything brand new, and they need, I think it's just like a lot of things, you just limp things along forever until you get to the point that it's kind of almost like unlimpable. Mm-hmm. And you're spending all your time limping it, and you're not actually accomplishing much.
Yeah.
So like there would be some areas that the water would just stay on for like a couple days, and there'd literally be a pond.
Yeah. Debbie said, "What a lot of cutback can do. Your mom's garden is so beautiful." 2 questions. What's the story with the animal statues at the one corner in the city? And did we get a peek of your old pergola at Moore Park? Yes. So there is a little, is it like a half a city block park?
Yeah.
At one of the corners of the downtown, and we donated our gazebo. They came and got it when we were getting ready to put the Hartley in. So it lives down at that park, which is so fun.
We filmed the whole thing.
Maybe we could do flower beds around that. They would probably get vandalized. But, maybe we could. That would be fun. And then at one point in time, this is years back, they put in some bump outs at the corner of most of the corners of the downtown area. And then they just put gravel in them and never ran water to them. Let me just, before Erin jumps in, because Erin, I kind of know where it will go when Erin is. So the thought was to put some flowers in there. And my mom did put some, like they asked her, like, what can we put in here? And she's like, well, lavender. I mean, you can put lavender in there. You're going to have to still water it. It's going to still need to have some water. The 2 that they were doing a test on, they actually have beautiful statues in those. They're like cranes, and they are very, we have cranes in our area, so it makes sense to see those. And there's some stones and beautiful lavender. If all of them looked like that, it would be gorgeous. It's still going to require somebody to water them. But when they did the bump outs, they did not run water to them. So they're a little bit limited. And then, somebody came along and had the statues put in there. And they're statues of like
safari
animals, which, safari animals are great. I have nothing against safari animals, except for when you're celebrating your area and your town. sort of want to do animals that represent your area, like
And there are
elk
beautiful ones.
and deer and antelope and cranes. You
Yeah.
know, we've got like a tarantula and, or
You
no, a
could
scorpion
you
and a
could have a
tarantula.
giant eagle, or something that's
Yeah,
like majestic, and like you see these here.
we have a rhino.
Yeah.
We have a huge scorpion. We have a tarantula. We've got a hyena
Yeah.
in one of them.
I personally am like very much against those, and I.
You know, if to me it's like, I'm glad somebody took the reins and is doing something, but I
Yeah.
think the ones with the cranes and the lavenders, they're beautiful.
Yeah, it was like a good idea to have bronze statues, and then the implementation went off the rails. My personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
We volunteered to do annuals and stuff.
We
Yeah,
actually volunteered to put roses in, remember? Because Proven Winners
oh
wanted to send
yeah.
us out like 400 roses, and we were like, we can hook you up and we'll plant them.
Yeah.
But water was the issue.
Yeah, and it would have been so simple to run the water. They tore up our entire downtown. They redid the street. Did the bump outs, and there was all this plan. Like, do you remember we even went to a meeting for like city beautification
Uh-huh.
stuff, and it sounded like there was all these plans to do hanging baskets
Which
and
they've done,
which they've done, and we were like,
but they're
wow,
not,
this is
there's no
great.
drip.
And then they didn't run drip or power.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like such a massive oversight, because conduit is not expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And when everything's tore up, all you gotta do is just lay the conduit.
You're like the conduit king.
Well, okay, the trench is expensive. Tearing things
Yeah,
up is expensive.
absolutely.
Just putting conduit down is not expensive.
Sure.
And you can always go back later and like kind of redo the areas where the conduit is running.
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to do is just come up at these little junction boxes, in each bump out,
Mm-hmm.
and you can figure everything else out later. Like, we don't know how we're going to wire everything. We don't know how the water's going to run. Just run, several different conduits to each bed, and we'll figure it out down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So simple.
Yeah.
But they didn't do any of that while it was tore up, which is the expensive
How
part.
long ago was that? I don't even think we have the same leadership
No, we
anymore.
don't. It was maybe like 7 or 8 years ago
Yeah,
that
it
it
was a
happened.
while ago.
Yeah. So anyway, it's disappointing, because it could have been so awesome, and like we were pretty gung ho about like, we'll help with whatever it takes.
It
And then
still can be awesome.
well, you can,
It's just gonna be harder.
It's not worth the labor that it takes to go water things manually. Labor is so expensive now that if you can set things up to be automated,
Yeah.
then you don't have to pay somebody to go out there and
Yeah, and
water
they probably
plants.
know that, and that's why statues are in there now. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
Anywho,
The
Lisa,
statues need to go.
let's move on. Lisa said, "I would love to do this for my community. How did you write your grant?" We have something called a VNC board, a Visitors and Convention Board. Through I can't even remember like how they're connected, but I think I got connected to them through the Chamber of Commerce, and it was an application. So it was very easy. They had questions on what the project was, the cost, yada yada. You all answer all of those, and then you share your vision. And then I had to go present it to the board. Oh, that was nerve wracking. It was early, like 7 in the morning or something like that meeting. And I presented it. It was a bunch of people I knew, which was nice, but I still don't like to get up in front of people and, talk about things. But they gave me the initial grant. I got the grant to buy the initial 26 pots that went out on the corners, which are the pots that are still there. And that included the cost to fill them up with soil. Also, I bought some silver plaques that we made, or plaque holders that we made plaques so that I could say who adopted each pot, and it included the plants for the first year, the centerpiece plants, I think. And then I got businesses to adopt the pot. It was like $260 for the entire year for a business to adopt a pot, and that included us going out and switching out all the plants. And I went in the morning and met a city employee. I actually talked to the city too and asked them if they would want to be involved and like help me out with this. So they provided a guy in the morning to meet me, and we went around the town. He drove, so he just got to chill in the truck, and I just was outside sitting on the tailgate, and I'd hop out and water. And so I did it all by myself for the first year. I think I was down there 7 days a week for the entire first summer. And then, we were able to kind of scale back when it got cooler. And then the second year, I had a volunteer crew. I had the best volunteers come down and water pots. Like I had one volunteer for each day of the week. And then my mom and I did Saturday mornings. And I also did notice a comment. I don't know if it made it in here, but I do, on occasion read comments. I noticed somebody said something about like when I stopped doing the project that I just fobbed it off on my mom and like, shame on you for doing that, like letting your mom pick up the pieces. When I knew that it was becoming too much, I mean, life evolves, it changes. I was involved in that project for like 10 years. And then I just, this was ramping up and then we had kids and just, it was too much. So I just told my mom, like, something has got to give and I'm spending too much time on this. So at this point, we can either pull the pots, we could move them somewhere that's easier for somebody to water, or we could hook up a drip system somewhere like around your parking lot or to one of the parks in the town or something to where we don't have to maintain them anymore. Or we could ask the city if they want to take on the project, or if you want to continue it on, because it is good. It's good for businesses to be involved in the community, and my parents care about that. So my mom was like, no, I'll take, we'll do it. It was her decision to do that. I just didn't dump it on their plate and say like, okay, I'm out. Just wanted to put that out there. Lady Courtney said, I reduced my brunnera, divided and scattered around the garden, but tell me, should I have cut it all the way to the ground? Will it grow back and bush out again? What a busy day you all had. If you, dug up, divided, and scattered it around your garden, the benefit of cutting a plant back right after you've done that is that it has so much more energy to put on forming up a really strong root system. The echinacea that I just moved from the cut flower garden over to the side of the pond berm, and it looked just like crap. I put it in, it was all wilted. I did come back through and I cut it all back. It was too much leaf canopy for the, freshly dug roots to support. So I wanted the plant to focus that energy. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to, but it definitely, I think, is helpful for the plant if you cut it back and just let it come back. And it's early enough in the season, it should do that. Nancy said, what kind of Colorado blue spruce was the small one? Just couldn't make out what you said. It's fastigiata. Fastigiata. I think fastigiata. I would lose at a spelling bee.
Very fastidious of you to spell it out.
Yeah, they stay nice and narrow. Donna Braden said, oh, I forgot. Did I mention last time you used that saying that Californians say cooking with gas instead of cooking with grease? That is so funny. Yeah, I never heard cooking with gas until like recently. In our area, it's always cooking with grease.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
like we're cooking with grease now,
Right.
That means, things are going well.
Sure.
Cheryl said, I didn't realize that you should cut brunnera back, or were you just clearing it out? We like to cut it back because it freshens up the plant, kind of like lady's mantle. If you do it early enough, right after it's done blooming, it has time to recover and push brand new leaves and look very fresh and a little bit more compact for the rest of the season. Zones 4 to 11 said, what's the ground cover underneath the yellow peony? That's lamium. Isn't it beautiful? I always comment on that area when we walk down there at my parents' house. It's just this solid mass of lamium, and it always looks pretty. Heather Fisk said, does your mom or you know what variety of peony she has, the light yellow one? We want to add more to our landscape, and I'd love to find some colors besides pink. It's a type of Edo peony. I have one too. Let's see. There's Bartzella. Maybe that's it. Bartzella Edo peony. I bet you that's what it is. Bartzella. Okay, next video was planting annuals, dahlias, and grass seed, plus a strawberry raised bed update. So I took that back area in the south garden and just decked it out with a superbena called Violet Ice, some Carolee Petite Pink Gara. I put in some Kufia, we put in some Supertunia Mini Vista White. We just filled it in and it's gonna look so pretty. I'm excited to see what it does back there. And then since we were over there, I decided to run over to show you how the strawberries are doing and harvest whatever was ready. Actually, I need to go out and harvest tonight. We're doing a strawberry Cobb salad for dinner tonight, and I'm gonna need to get some of them, but they are just producing like crazy. And it's been so nice having them tall. I mean, I can't even tell you how nice it is to not have to bend over to get them. And I find myself out there, and the kids go out there all the time just to check if there's more ripe ones ready. And then we grabbed the dahlias from the root cellar. We went through to see how they did in winter storage. We tried the dividing in fall and wrapping them individually in plastic wrap method. I would say 98% success rate. They take up so much less space, and you don't have to mess with the dividing and all of that in the spring when we're so busy. That always took like a 2-day project, and I always dreaded it. I hate dealing with dahlia tubers. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. And then I also had a tray of seedlings that I had started, dahlia seedlings, and we got those all planted. Riella said, what's the difference with the tuber dahlias and the ones started from seeds? Will the ones from seeds eventually produce tubers? They already have. They're itty bitty. And the first year, I mean, start them from seed like anything else, and they are easy to grow from seed. And then they'll produce little tubers. You dig them that first year like you would any other dahlia and treat them the same way from that point on. Lisa said, do you cut your strawberry plant runners? I've heard that helps the mother plant produce more strawberries. I'm not really diligent about that. I've heard that too. Maybe I should. Especially the ones hanging over the side like they're doing no good. They're
You
not.
always have such good crops,
I
though.
know. That's why I just don't worry about it. But, if you struggle with getting your strawberries to produce, that
Maybe
might be
try it.
helpful. Yeah. Liza said, what is the fertilizer regimen for the strawberries? Well, I did put Biotone starter fertilizer in the beds when I initially planted them, and then I top dressed with land and seed compost. And then I will probably go along mid-season with some garden tone or berry tone, whichever one I have in my gator, and give them a second dose. I don't really do it more often than that. I think the bag says you can do once a month, and maybe you'll get more berries than that. But again, we get such a massive crop that I just haven't had to worry about that. There are crops that I don't do as well with that I probably should fertilize more, but the strawberries just, we tend to have good luck with those. Gwen Greenwalt said, I follow some other gardeners who have commented about the lifespan of strawberry plants and how they're rotating plants every 3 years. Is that something that you have to do? It is something that's good to do. So strawberries actually have a 5-year lifespan. First year, they're kind of just rooting in usually. My plants are not first year plants, so they're probably second year plants when I put them in. Years 2 and 3 are the best years for production. And years 4 and 5, they start to fizzle out. Like by the 5th year, it's kind of like, oh boy, it's time. So I know a lot of commercial operations will start over every 3 years with new plants. And some people will do a method where they keep some of the runners and, like landscape staple them down to the ground and kind of monitor how those are doing and let those root in. And then eventually they remove that mother plant, but that mother plant has produced a new one that they've let root in. But I feel like that you have to monitor that pretty closely how that goes. So we'll have to see what we do with ours. Ours out in the cut flower garden that were planted in the ground were starting to peter last year. We didn't have as good of a crop, but I think they were in year 4. So it made sense to me. I thought, well, this is kind of good timing that they're coming out because I would probably need to do something anyway. Sherry said the strawberries look amazing. May I ask where you purchased them? I got them from my parents' garden center. She would be able to verify what grower they came from, but I think, did they come from Walla Walla? I know the ones I initially planted were from Walla Walla, but they're the Seascape and Honeyoy variety. JM7056 said, if the dahlias are wrapped in plastic, what is the point of airflow using burlap and crates? It's just what we have, I guess. It's just what we use. I don't think it's as necessary. Like, I probably would still put them in something that breathed, like a cardboard box or something where air could still, it's not like a stagnant environment where humidity could take over, because I think that would be bad. But we just use crates in the root cellar. That's just kind of our MO. So that's what I used. Kathy Riggs said, I was wondering, what is the height of your strawberry beds? Is it a kit or did you all build them yourselves? Could you please give us the overall dimensions of the raised beds, please? I'm needing a complete garden makeover for my ground fruit and vegetable for medical reasons, and I really like the look of your strawberry beds. We went over all of that in the video. So if you just type in garden answer strawberries, you can find the video where we installed them, and I talked about all of that. Jenny said, I would love to grow strawberries, but I'm wondering how you keep insects from infesting them. We're in central Iowa and would love any advice or suggestions. Well, I know a lot of people put a layer of like straw on the ground to help keep the berries up off the soil, and that helps with like slug activity too. You can use some baits like bug and slug killer, which is helpful. We don't deal with a lot of pests on our strawberries. I feel bad because we do so well with strawberries. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I haven't had to deal with that. I don't have birds, attacking them. I'll see an occasional ant, but that's normal. If I saw an ant infestation, I would put bug and slug killer down. And I know a lot of people cover them too. Like they'll put like a protective cloth over them to keep them from birds and then insects flying in. So that might be a helpful thing too. Marissa said, I love your videos. Thank you. I'm always learning something new and inspired to elevate my garden, which is a definite work in progress. Aren't all of ours a work in progress for sure? I have to say I have grass envy. Your grass looks amazing. Bravo, Erin. Question, can I plant grass seed at any time? Does temperature or seasons matter when planting?
You need some heat units. You'll be the easiest probably in spring, like warmer spring and fall before it gets too cold. Those are maybe like ideal. You can do it in the summer when it's like full on hot. You just got to make sure that it doesn't dry out. That's really all that matters, is it can't get too cold and it can't dry out. So as long as you don't have either of those things happen, you can do it.
C.M. Miller said, I was so excited to see you plant dahlias today. Got my very first dahlia yesterday and will be planting later today. I'm very concerned though, because this has a very long stem, already like 18 inches and no leaves. Do you just bury it or cut it back? It was sent sealed up in a plastic bag full of peat moss. It's a huge tuber corm, so I really want to do this right. I would just plant your tuber the way you're supposed to, a couple inches under the soil and have that thing facing up and just plant it. That thing will stick up out of the ground. That's what I would do. And it might suffer a bit, but I think the plant will, or the tuber might even, they'll form more that can come up. So that's what I would do. I've had them longer before and I've had them sticking up out of the ground. And I've had like the tips kind of turn black and kind of like fall, like bend over a little bit. And then all of a sudden, like they just spring forth with new growth. Okay, the last video from this week was thinning and bagging apples plus planting hardy geraniums and colorful annuals. So I went through a couple of different options for organic pest control on apple trees because I have struggled in years past with codling moth and worms in our apples, but I don't want to really do the fruit tree spray, not because I'm against spraying. Obviously, we spray for things when needed. It's the time and remembering to do it. So I thought, you know what? I think it would be really fun, one, to not have to spray. If I can figure out a way to not have to spray that works, I'm about that. So I had heard of two different things. You could spray kaolin clay, which puts a powdery coating over the fruit that the bugs don't like. It keeps the bugs out, and it washes off very easily. And I might do that if this doesn't work, but this just seems so fun. You get these like little mesh bags, and when the fruit forms up, I think I waited a little bit longer than I should have. They say like 3/4 of an inch. Then you put a bag over each individual fruit you want to save. And I thought, well, I have to be out there thinning these trees anyway, because they really set a lot of fruit this year. So I may as well, as I thin the fruit out, bag the apples that are still there. And supposedly it keeps bugs out. And you can leave them on. The bag is big enough to where the apple still has room to form up, and then you just harvest your apple in the bag. We had the fierce winds this weekend. Looks like every bag is still there. People had, and that might even be in here about like, will those bags stay put in the wind? So far, so good. Anyway, so we did that. I had to order a bunch more bags because I don't know what I was thinking. I think I had 50 bags on hand. I ordered 1,000 bags right after I got finished with that. Thought, well, I will use them. And they're reusable, which is great. And yes, it takes longer out there. But if I add up the amount of time and effort it takes to mix up spray 4 different times and go out and apply it, I don't know, we're probably about the same. But it was relaxing. I just thought, this is nice. It like forces you to slow down. And I'm like just doing something mindless and
Do
feeling
your
like,
arms get tired?
no, I'm
Oh,
feeling like I'm doing something good for the tree. You're kind of moving around so much. It's not like a solid. If I
sure.
had to hold my arms up like that, it definitely would make me tired. But we planted more Carmina hardy geraniums by the back shade porch. And then we went out and planted some beautiful Dayglow yellow dahlias. They're like the little miniature ones in Proven Winners line. And then some Supertunia Mini Vista white. It's a very clear, fresh blend, like clear yellow and clear white. Jennifer said, how tall are you letting your fruit trees grow? We've got a small yard and want some fruit trees, but we're not sure how big they get or if you can keep them small enough to fit the area. A lot of people choose the vase method of fruit tree pruning because it keeps them a lot more manageable in size. So a semi-dwarf tree will usually grow between 15 and 20 feet tall and wide. Most fruit trees are a semi-dwarf, and then you'll have like the regular size fruit trees, like some apples and pears that get massive. And those definitely would benefit from pruning down. So there's 3 different methods. There's a vase method of pruning, which keeps the tree like this, and it keeps the tree like a lot of airflow and light, but also keeps it down in size so that it's like all at harvesting level. And then you can do a modified central leader sort of prune method, which keeps the tree a little bit taller, but not as tall as if you kept a central leader. The tall trunk, going up right through the center of the tree, like a lot of pears will form or apples will form, then the tree gets a lot taller. So what I am doing is I've chosen several branches kind of as my leaders, and I have modified central leaders. I've got like 4 or 5 of them. It keeps the tree's growth in a little bit more check. However, when I was out there, I thought, I don't know. Maybe I will work on keeping these a little bit smaller than I had initially wanted. I do not like the look of vase pruned trees. They look a little tortured to me, but the practicality of it might win in the end. There are some dwarf fruit trees, though, that grow like 6 by 6. So you might consider there's peaches and nectarines. There are some skinny apple trees that stay like 2 feet wide or 3 feet wide and grow just like a little bit taller, 10 to 15 feet tall. And so if you've got a really narrow area, that would work out well. So there are some options. What I really want is a cherry. a sweet cherry that doesn't need a pollinator that I could keep in a really dwarf-sized shape. I don't think that exists. Does that exist? I know Proven Winners has some tart bush cherries coming out. I've got 5 of them I need to plant, which I'm excited for, but I want cherries I can eat straight off of the tree, you know? Melissa said, Laura, do you cut your hardy geranium back in the fall? No, not normally. A lot of them are evergreen or semi-evergreen. So a lot of time we wait to do a cut back, and sometimes they don't even need to be cut back. You can just kind of clean up any tattered leaves. Sharon said, have you noticed your soil getting better with all the compost you use over the years? Yeah, absolutely. I noticed like worm activity in the soil is just off the charts. Workability of the soil is getting better. So yeah, I think using the compost as mulch and then just working in all the stuff that we work in all the time, the fertilizer and all of that, it's all been super good for the soil, I think. Jag810 said, how do the worms even get up the tree? I know it happens, but it seems like a very hard event for them. Well, isn't it the moth that lays the eggs, right? And they don't necessarily have to crawl up the tree, right?
Well, I don't know. I never thought of
I
that.
feel like I knew this
It
at
has to
one
be
point.
it has to be moths like laying eggs.
So you guys ask good questions because like a lot of these things it's in and out for me. It's in and out information and I don't
Well, you
retain
don't need to
it.
know how they get there. You just know that they get there.
Codling moths, also known as apple moths, are small grayish brown moths that lay their eggs on the developing apples, often near the stem or on the surface of the fruit. So I hope I didn't get after it too late with the bags because if I did, then I just trapped those eggs in with the apple with their food source, which is possible. The eggs hatch into caterpillars or larvae, which are the worms that burrow into the apple. Lovely. Shannon said, when you get a chance, can you please tell about your experience with these bags after a day of strong wind? That is what would happen to my bags. Yeah, so far, so good. And I bagged the apples on the arbors as well. Benjamin and I went through and did that. And they are all intact after this weekend, and those are exposed. Cody Williams said, been excited to see the orchard projects commence. Looking forward to your harvest. What fruit do you most look forward to? The nectarines. Hands down. I noticed one of our apricots, again, has the oozing,
Wow.
like sap stuff that I had to, what is that? What is it? I can't remember. Anyway, that I had to remove the first trees for. I love apricots and I look forward to those, and both trees have apricots in them, but the nectarines for sure I look forward to the most. Over peaches too, because nectarines are like the better peach because they don't have the fuzzy skin. You can just eat the whole thing right out there in the garden.
I grew up saying apricot and then realized that like almost everyone else says apricot.
Cooking with grease, cooking with gas.
I suppose.
Apricot. I'd feel weird saying apricot
Well,
at
yeah,
this point.
because
Yeah.
that's how we grew up.
Right. Marina said, is there something wrong with the peach tree? It has less and yellowish leaves on the top. Please show more of your orchard. Yeah, I have one peach tree that's looking a little bit more puny than the other one. Can't tell it why. Like I had to just cut out a few more dead branches the other day. There's nothing I can see insect-wise, fungus-wise, or I mean, it doesn't have any kind of curling leaves or anything like that. So it might just be, I don't know. I need to dig around in the soil. I think that would be the next thing to check. I mean, maybe it's hanging on to too much moisture in that area. Maybe it's not getting quite enough. You never know. It's watered by sprinklers, so there could be something going on with that. Stephanie said, I feel your pain with thinning. I've used those bags on my dahlias before, but never fruit. I think I'll try. Question, have you already had your June drop? I would think that would assist in the thinning process. Also, are those bags green? What size? I got the 6x8 size, and they are green, and they look very bright. Hold on. When you get them in the bag, you're like, oh my word, my tree's going to have these neon looking bags. But then you take them out from the mass of them and they look a lot better. They don't show up like you would think they would. And as far as the June drop, I have noticed some fruit drop a little bit, but not a tremendous amount yet. I could tell though on the nectarines which ones would have dropped. I did a little thinning later on that evening. No, it was the next day, I think. In the evening, I went out and I've just been trying to do a little bit at a time, and I can absolutely tell which ones are starting to, like, they're smaller sized, and it looks like they're fixing to drop. Okay, the last group of questions for today's video comes from last week's recap video. The first comment, this is kind of fun, is from Gardening TLC. Hi, I love your channel. Actually, I also carry your kneeling pads in my brick and mortar garden center, The Landscape Connection in Rockford, Illinois. Just in case you didn't know that, and it truly is the best kneeling pad I've ever used or seen. Isn't that sweet?
That's awesome.
And there's a picture here, and it looks beautiful. I love it. So much fun. BKBRP said, did it go black and no sound at 4:02? I thought it was just inserting an ad, and then I saw a graphic for the drill pop up at 4:31. Then at 5:03, Aaron says, oh, really? Yeah, there was a minute-long silence in last week's recap video. I woke up after it went up for the day because it goes up at 5 in the morning, and it's a Sunday, so I woke up, I don't know, 7-ish, and saw, because I do read through the comments, especially first thing in the morning, because if we've done something egregious,
Yeah.
like we'll know about it from the comment section. So
Problem is, it will have already been up for like 2 hours at that
you
point.
know, still, that's
Yeah.
less than if you left it up longer than that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Aaron, wake up! There's a minute-long section that's black. So
Well, I rolled over, grabbed my phone, and watched it, and I was pretty sure that I had just, when you're editing, if you press V on the keyboard, it will like black out whatever you have selected. And occasionally I've done that in the past where you're watching it and something happens and you like bump the keyboard and you accidentally hit V, but you don't really notice it. And so you just blanked out a whole section. I was guessing that's probably what I did. I'm not really sure, but I looked and it wasn't egregious. It wasn't like, it wasn't like us fighting or something. And so I just thought, you know what?
that never happens.
We fight like any other couple. And I feel like we do a good job of like making up afterwards. But either way, it wasn't bad. And I was just like, you know what? The only thing I could do at this point is delete the video and re-upload it, which would take like close to an hour to re-edit whatever had been done, re-export it, re-upload it. And I just thought it's not worth the effort. I'm just going to have a blank spot in the video, and it is what it is.
That doesn't happen very often.
No.
Thankfully. Catherine Morris said, have been watching since you were in the townhouse and have learned so much. Thank you. I recently added some of the Bonide Turbo sticking agent to my BT mix, hoping it would help. The BT on my petunias, geraniums, snapdragons, and coleus longer, but found it sort of faded the color of the petunia blossoms. I think that will happen when they get sprayed. Ours, that happens with our BT too, especially depending on time of day you're spraying it. I noticed ours got sprayed with BT in the middle of a hot day, and it doesn't kill bees or anything or pollinators that are out. It just targets caterpillars or the budworms in that stage. But it does wreck the flowers, but they recover like in 2 days. They're looking really good again. So I think that's totally normal. And it probably just exacerbates it a little bit with that surfactant, that sticking agent in there. And it just...
Ken was able to get some of that turbo spreader sticker, but I think that they are closing that out. I think Bonite is not selling that anymore. So, like, if you can get a hold of it to sell it, then you're just getting whatever's left.
Oh.
So we might have to find a different supplier.
Do they not have something to take its place?
No, I didn't see anything
weird.
that was going to take its place. Yeah, like getting a surfactant is
normal.
A really normal thing. Maybe they just don't want to be in that. I don't know.
Huh.
We'll have to ask them.
Debbie said, Aaron, were you a pyro kid? LOL.
Yeah. I've always loved fireworks.
Oh, yes.
I've always loved burning things. So, yeah. Been a little bit of a pyro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lather and Lace said, do I have to have mounds for pumpkins? Boy, is this a project. My backyard looks like a farm right now. When I say mounds or hills, it just means where I planted them. I think that's just like an old saying. And maybe people used to mound up where they planted them. Maybe. I don't know. But when I plant hills or mounds, that's just the planting site. Mine's completely flat where I planted them. Jennifer said, have you thought about making some garden rooms, like a Japanese style, desert, tropical, etc., to be able to play or experiment with new plants? Yeah, we talk about that from time to time. I don't know. I think I got a lot of that out of my system when I worked down at the garden center because it was years and years and years of creating different themed displays. So I got to play with that quite a lot. And I kind of figured out what I liked, the style I liked. And I kind of want my garden to feel, in the end, there will be rooms. It doesn't look like it now, but in the end there will be because we have so much planted. It just needs time to grow and to mature a little bit. But I also like sweeping views. I like big sweeping views and vistas and things like that. So
yeah,
I don't
rooms
know.
don't just crop up.
No, it takes
like 20 years.
Unless you move into a garden like my parents did. I mean, it's wildly different than it was when we moved in, except for the fact that it was already terraced. So there were already rock walls there and already kind of like forced spots of where you could put things. And they built the rock walls around the pool because that was added later. But that was just incorporating into the overall feel of the garden that was already there. So the terracing was there, but there was just weeds and a couple trees when we moved in. So it's wildly different. But yeah, I mean, that was maybe a little bit easier to get rooms because you've got different levels and different areas to garden. It's hard to take a blank slate, like just a flat piece of grass, and make it look like rooms right away. It just takes a long time. We'll get there eventually. I'm starting to see it form up a bit more. Sheila said, didn't you plant a ton of apple blossom geranium seeds? I didn't this year. I planted Maverick Violet geranium seeds, and then I did not like the color so much. It was very, very bright. I sent them all home with Bethany. And I only had a handful. I think I had like 30 of those started from seed. I did, however, plant a ton of snowflake and apple blossom snapdragon seeds. I had 600 of them in the greenhouse, and it was getting a little bit late to plant them out, and I had planned on planting them out where I did the corn and the all of that business out in the dirt lands, and a couple of them had already sent up bloom stalks, and they're in the greenhouse like on their own, and I looked in the blooms, there's already thrips in like 2 bloom stalks
Whoa.
and I just pitched them all. Bethany didn't even want them.
Yeah.
That's saying something. Like, she takes and nurses back a lot of things, but I told her I don't want to introduce this into your garden. So I just pitched all of them because I'm not going to mess with that again this year. And maybe I just need a year off from them because they are the absolute worst flowers for thrips. And
Yeah.
there's no way of contact killing them because they're inside the flowers. So I
Sure.
just don't know how you do that without systemically going through. And I don't want to do that either.
Yeah.
So anyway, just maybe taking some time off and thinning out the thrip population might help. Mrs. Debbie said, do you ever use diatomaceous earth for insect control? I never hear you suggest that. It's safe for animals, humans, and bees. We do on occasion. It's a little bit harder to apply. We've used it, actually, Paul used it very consistently for squash bugs, actually. In that, the year I did the sunflower, like the kids' maze sort of section in the cut flower garden, that was really fun. And we had some hills of pumpkins in there, and it was very condensed. Like, we had 6 hills in there, so it was very easy to experiment on a very much so smaller scale. And we had some good luck with that. But I don't use it on other things just because it's a little bit of a beast, and you have to apply it so much more often, especially if you live in an area with rain. Like, you would think our area would be the best because we don't get a ton of rain. We also get a ton of wind, and it would blow it all over the place too. Willie said, early in this recap, you were both talking about wind. Would your weather station capture that information? Is that weather station still something you use? Where is it at? Is it still back here?
Yeah, we haven't set it up yet.
We need
it's,
to.
It's collecting temperature, but that's it.
Sure.
It's like sheltered right now.
Mm-hmm. Ida Wise said, have you ever tried Bonide Stump and Vine for your bindweed? It's listed on the label.
Oh.
I have not. I don't think I even realized it was listed for the label. Maybe we should try it like in problem areas.
Yeah.
Because you can you just do like a little brush on the plant. I wonder.
Huh.
Thank you for bringing that to our.
Okay, but like, how exactly would you apply that? So do you cut it off and then try to apply it to where like the root is?
It probably tells you in the label. Maybe
Huh.
you can use it as a spray. Maybe you paint the leaves.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think you can spray it because it's
Well,
more.
if you hit the leaves at the base of the plant even, and it soaks it in and sends it down to the roots,
Uh-huh.
maybe that's enough.
But it's a little thicker in consistency. It's not like a pure liquid.
Right. It
So
probably
I don't-
tells you.
I don't think you can spray it. Maybe
Sure,
you can mix it. I don't know.
I'm talking about like just painting it on the base leaves.
I don't know. We'll have to find out. That's interesting to know.
That is. Emily said, I'm curious why sometimes the thumbnail for a video changes. Do you have a protocol, or if you don't immediately get the view numbers you were expecting, then you change up the image? I'm looking forward to seeing an update of the cottage garden you did at your mom's by the chicken run. Thank you for inspiring my green thumb. The thumbnails, like, it auto chooses 3, right?
Yeah. YouTube, like maybe 6 months ago or a year, rolled out a thing where you can upload 3 images, 3 thumbnails, and it serves all 3 thumbnails to a group of people, and then it chooses the one. I think it's based on watch time. So like, the idea is not to upload like clickbait type thumbnails that people click to the video and then exit. It's basically which thumbnail did people click on the video and watch the most of it from. Because that's kind of what you're after, is you want people to click on the video and actually be like, oh, I intended to click on it. I wanted to watch this video. Sure. So that's why it changes.
Yeah. So we don't do it. It does it kind of on its own.
Yeah, it picks. And which is really interesting. Most of the time I find that it picks the one where you're just like smiling, which is almost always just at the beginning of the video.
Guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll grab I spend very little time on thumbnails, but I'll just grab like an action shot of you doing something that was in the video.
Yeah.
And most of the time it picks the photo of you,
The face,
but not always.
The face shot. Yeah. Yeah, we've never spent a ton of effort
No, because it feels like we've never wanted to get into clickbait or anything like that, or
Yeah.
even like close to clickbait. And the more time you spend on thumbnails, I feel like the closer you're getting to clickbait in a way, because it's like you're trying to make the thumbnail like really exciting in some way. So I don't really know what to do with
Strawberry
that.
update.
Yeah.
Like, it is riveting stuff, Erin.
Yeah.
And you guys, that is it for this week's recap video. We made it through all the questions, and I was really happy that we didn't have to skip posting.
Yeah.
It was nice. We just kept maintained the same schedule. It was kind of fun knowing we were, off in McCall and things were still just rolling like they normally do. And I was hardly on my phone the whole time. Like I put together a reel. Those were literally the only things,
The
except
only
for a
clips.
couple of pictures of deer that Benjamin took, but they were kind of blurry and it was like the bum of the deer,
Yeah.
but it was literally the only things that I took any video or pictures of while we were there. So it was very relaxed time away. It was nice. So anyway, hope you guys are all having a great week and we will see you in the next video. Bye.